As we've been approaching this anniversary, I've been really pondering a lot the experiences that my family and I had during this time, and I just want to share a little bit of that with you. June 18th, 2002, we were at El Rancho celebrating my niece's birthday, and that was kind of one of our family traditions. We always went there for birthdays. And we came out and looked to the west and saw the beautiful sunset, but we knew it wasn't a good omen that night. As we went through that week, it got scarier and scarier. Up until that time, I think we here in the White Mountains had felt somewhat insulated from all the natural disasters that occur all over the rest of the country. We don't have hurricanes, we don't have huge blizzards, tornadoes, ice storms, and those kind of things. But this really woke us up to what was going on. This was the first wake-up call that we were not immune to all of those kinds of disasters. We had to evacuate that Saturday evening in the middle of the night. Fortunately, we were able to go to Springerville and be with a lot of our family and friends, but I've never seen a more orderly evacuation. We went up over the top of the mountain, and those were the days before everybody had cell phones, so we had handheld radios, and we were all chatting back and forth. It was a really scary time for us. Every day at 11 o'clock, we watched the news. So we could hear Jim Paxton either reassure us or tell us that the monster had reared his ugly head once again. I was chatting with Paul Watson, who was our town manager during that time last week, and he stayed here in town so that he could attend all the briefings with the fire departments and the Forest Service. He said there were a couple nights he left there thinking that the next day it was going to be here in town. As we went on through the week, the news kind of went up and down. It was a real roller coaster. One day, Rick Lupe, who was a BIA hotshot, and he led his crew, they carved a fire line that really saved our communities, Pinetop-Lakeside and Show Low. It was his hard work and the hard work of all the firefighters and all the people that were out there, and we've got one who's going to tell us a little bit about his experiences later, that saved our community. And I believe there was also a lot of divine intervention in that fire. We've learned a lot in the last 20 years. Immediately after the fire, we had the White Mountain Stewardship contract to start thinning the forests, and we've had all kinds of other activities going on. We have implemented a lot of firewise planning in our communities, both Show Low and Pinetop-Lakeside. It's never going to be enough, I don't think. We need to remember that. People become complacent. It's got to be a continuous process. It's not a one-time thing that you firewise your property. So we have to remember that. Fortunately, our fire departments locally have worked really hard, especially Chief Morgan from Pinetop Fire and Chief Savage from Timber Mesa. They've obtained grant money to help property owners thin their properties, and we continue working towards that goal. The town of Pinetop-Lakeside was fortunate enough to be able to thin Woodland Lake Park so that hopefully that would be a little bit more fire safe. Anyway, on June 29th, 20 years ago today, we were able to come home. And it was almost an eerie feeling coming back into our community, which was very barren. There was nobody here. We kind of got the word early from a neighbor who was in law enforcement. We came into the south end of Pinetop and were greeted by our then Mayor, Jenny Handorf, sitting on the back of a Pinetop-Lakeside pickup truck, waving at everybody. And I remember one of her comments during that week, she was quoted on the news as saying, "We are the White Mountains. We will rise from this, whatever happens." And she was right. We came back home to a great community. Safeway grocery store provided us with enough groceries for breakfast. Everybody in the community came back and got a gallon of milk, a dozen eggs, a pound of bacon, I think. So that's the kind of thing we came back to. This is a very resilient community, and we're all in this together. So thank you guys all for coming and listening to my little recollections of that time. I certainly hope that it's never repeated. I'm going to turn this over now to Randy Chevalier with the Timber Mesa Fire Department.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Town Council, thank you for allowing Timber Mesa to stand up here and say a few words today. I'm joined today with the management team from Timber Mesa. We have Fire Chief Brian Savage, Assistant Chief Clay Wood, and Assistant Chief Josh Livermore. I'm standing up here today because I am the designated PIO, Public Information Officer for Timber Mesa. And I have a few prepared notes that I want to kind of read you today. 2002 was certainly a year to remember. As I recall, the fire season had started earlier than usual in the Southwest region that year. Prior to the Rodeo Chediski fire, I personally had been out on several out-of-district wildfire assignments, including the Middle Fire near Reserve, New Mexico in early March. On June 18th, 2002, the day the Rodeo fire started, I was assigned to the Missionary Ridge fire near Durango, Colorado. The Missionary Ridge fire had scorched thousands of acres and burned many homes. The fire behavior and the destruction I witnessed on that fire was something I had not seen before. The crew and I were certainly missing home as we received word about the destruction that was occurring in our backyard. The operations section chief of the incident management team sought us out to let us know we are being released due to what was unfolding in our hometown. We are so grateful to be headed home that day. We arrived back in town the day evacuation orders were given, just in enough time to help our families load up the last few belongings as they left town nervous, scared, and with fear of what was to come. The fire front had caused extreme damage in Heber Overguard, Pinedale Clay Springs, Linden, and was quickly approaching Pinetop-Lakeside and Sholo. The fire behavior and growth was unprecedented. Several of my personal friends and fellow firefighters lost their homes, belongings, and dreams. I'd be remiss if I did not give thanks to the late Rick Lupe for his efforts that he put forth in protecting our communities. And I believe there's a statue just across from us of Rick Lupe. Though the devastation was beyond belief, there are many lessons learned for the fire service and the community. I'd like to share with you what I believe are three of the greatest lessons learned. The first is training. While the local fire service had well-trained firefighters, and had a rich history of protecting our communities, a greater focus was placed on training efforts geared towards the standards set forth through the Arizona State Wildfire Qualifications Committee and the National Wildfire Coordinating Group. In 2003, the Arizona Wildfire Incident Management Academy began as a result of the Rodeo Chediski fire and many other fires that burned across the state. Many members of Timber Mesa attend and instruct at the academy. Our very own Captain Stern serves on the board of directors for the Wildfire Academy. The second is teamwork. We are all in this together. A large-scale emergency incident like a wildfire or even a well-established structure fire cannot be fought alone by one single entity. In our region, when a fire occurs, it is acceptable for the closest, most appropriate resource to respond. Begin an initial attack and order necessary resources to fight the fire regardless of jurisdiction. All entities, inclusive of law enforcement, town and city management, must continue to focus on the teamwork it takes to prevent the loss of life and ensure the region has a well-developed emergency response plan. And finally, the third item is community preparedness. Wildfire is among the greatest threat our community faces. We live in a beautiful area and we must protect it. There's been much work put forth on the fuel reduction projects since the Rodeo Chediski fire on a local, state, and federal level. But I would suggest to you, though, that has not been enough. We live in the wildland-urban interface, and reducing threat of wildfire must be a constant effort. The education and the fuel reduction programs on all levels must continue. To the homeowners and business owners of the fire district, I encourage you to reach out to us to learn about fire-wise communities and ways of creating defensible space to protect our communities. Now is the time to become prepared. Please do your part. Before I leave you, I'd like to make mention that tomorrow, June 30th, is the 9th anniversary of the loss of the Granite Mountain Hotshots. Please take a moment to pay tribute to those that lost their lives and the families affected by that tragic events. And again, Madam Mayor, Town Council, thank you for allowing us to say a few words today.
Hello everybody, again Justin Gabler. Right now I'm the District Fire Management Officer up in Alpine, but soon I'll be coming back to the Lakeside District to help out again with the Fire and Fuels program. Just a few things that happened during the Rodeo Chediski. I was here as a seasonal crew member on the engines. Had family and friends that evacuated as well. We're from Globe, Miami area, so everybody took our pets and everything else that we had back down the Globe until everything was done. Throughout the fire, we went south side of Sholo over to Pinedale helping with a bunch of the thinning operations, getting ready, prepared for the backfiring operations that we did when it came up over the ridge, over the Rodeo and Rim. We were on the southwest side of Pinedale, and had a backfiring operation late into the night and to the next morning, and that held for a few days. Everything was going really well, and then the Chediski fire happened, so that came up right along the side of what we had and basically overtook what we did, and fire continued on up towards Highway 260 and to the north. We also bumped over and helped the BIA south of Sholo along Highway 60 and the roads there within the forest along the south side of Linden with backfiring operations and prepping of everything that we had there, and that's eventually where the fire ended up holding at. When everything calmed down and President Bush came over, our engine actually was sent over there to go help meet him. He wanted to meet people from the line that was working, so that was our next operation that we had. We went over to Springerville, met with him, and then came back for the rest of the fire. Spent several weeks helping with all the reseeding and repair and rehab efforts that went on for several years. It's still actually continuing on out there. Reseeding, the aerial mulching, spreading the straw out, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, a lot of work has gone into it, helping out. Over the next few years, yeah, like I said, helping out with all the burning of the slash and piles that were out there. So lots and lots of hours of work and dedication to help thin out the community and stuff down there to the south from the burn scar and clean that up. Over the past 20 years, within the forest, fires, they've basically remained small within the RC area, and then as people have noticed the last 10 years, it's starting to pick up again. There's more vegetation growth out there. Fires are able to spread a lot more readily and get larger. So like what the fire department said, we'll be out there helping move that forward, keep continuing the thinning process, prescribed fire stuff. Before the RC happened, there was about 37,000 acres of treatment out there within the forest, and that was a combined effort of prescribed fire and thinning efforts. Since then, over the last 20 years, there's been about 25,000 prescribed fire acres that have been treated and 18,000 of thinning acre units. So that equals 43,000 acres roughly that we've treated out there. So just building upon that over the years. There's also been a lot of several tree planting units out there to help bring the ponderosa pine type back. Again, the White Mountain Stewardship opened up right afterwards, helping thin out, not just within the RC area, but across the whole White Mountain area. After that, the Fry and other small timber sales have been opening up. A lot of prescribed firework, thinning units, masticating, a bunch of stuff that is going on out there and within the community itself. So all of it is very important. Upcoming over the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot more treatments out there as well. Thinning is going to continue to happen out there. Prescribed fire stuff is going to continue to happen. We're going to keep doing our best to maintain what's out there right now, keep the brush and stuff knocked back, keep it thin, keep it fire safe. That way firefighters can go in there when there's hazardous fire activity out there. We can get in there safely and knock it down. We'll be working with a lot of our partners. So before then, we had good relations, but now since that fire, we've definitely improved those relationships with everybody. The fire departments, the Arizona Game and Fish, Department of Forestry, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Mule Deer Foundation, Fort Apache and BIA relations, as long as the ADOT, the counties, cities and towns, the local contractors and the community members themselves. So actually talking to the people living in the community is a big process that we have to keep up. In the next 5 years, our hopes are to plan on prescribed fire treatment in there, and that could total up to 89,000 acres out there. And then thinning stuff would be 50,000 acres. So again, a combined effort between us, the community, fire departments, just keeping that going.
I would like to call your attention to over by the highway on one of our art pedestals. We've got a piece of artwork that is in memory, not in memory, I'm sorry, in gratitude for all of our first responders, our firefighters, everybody that participated in helping save our community. The base of that was made by Trent Penrod at the Burley Bear, and the wood came out of the Rodeo Chediski fire burn scar. So that really makes it even more special, and it will spin in the wind, and it is called the Ponderosa. So that is in gratitude for all those that help save our community. I want to thank you all for coming this morning. We just need to keep working on this. It's going to be an ongoing, forever process. And we can't ever forget that we do live in the wildland-urban interface, and we're blessed to live here, and it's our job to keep protecting it. So thank you all for coming, and I hope you'll just take a walk over there and check out our artwork there. So thanks for coming, everybody.